Chapter 13, Alligator Stew. Instead of eating inside the cafeteria tent, we gathered around the small campfire that was warming up a pot of alligator stew. Even with the soft breeze blowing, the air remained thick and humid. I missed the air-conditioned hotel room. Alex filled up a bowl and handed it to me. I sat in between Mike and Evan on an uncomfortable log, staring down at the bowl of warm stew. I was stirring it in circles, hesitating to take the first bite. I was reluctant the first time I tried it. It's a little tough, but once she adds the vegetables and spices, it makes a nice touch, Evan assured me. I scooped some warm stew out of the bowl and gently blew on it. I slid the spoon into my mouth to chew a piece of the alligator. It was a little chewy, but the yummy flavor was pleasantly good. Not bad, I said. After Alex gave everyone a bowl, she sat on the other side of Evan on the log. Zeke was sitting across from the fire, eating his stew, chatting with Danny. She had long, dirty blonde hair braided down the back. Her arms were well defined for a girl, and she stood a few inches taller than me. With the constant look of aggression on her face, she was a little intimidating. Every time I glanced in her direction, she glared at me uncomfortably, like yesterday in the cafeteria tent. Zeke removed his eyes from his stew, looking my way. Our eyes locked for a few seconds. He had this winsome yet mysterious smile. We carried a secret that I wished could be shared with Mike, but I was just not ready yet. I needed to know more. Danny caught sight of us staring. I quickly returned my eyes to my stew. So, Amber, when did your powers awaken? Danny asked with a taunt tone in her voice while leaning forward. Her body language screamed aggression. I continued to focus on my bowl. Talking about this was super hard for me. Well, the day of my awakening, I was 7. I recalled. That's impossible. No one ever had an awakening that young, Danny said. My guess was she was in her early 20s, but she came across as the bully in high school. Her demeaning attitude matched her vexed facial expression. It's true, I said. She didn't believe me. My eyes widened, staring at Alex, waiting for her to chime in at any moment. But instead, Alex never took her eyes off her bowl, sitting in silence. My guess was she didn't tell them. They say you can heal too. No star children can heal. I sense a fraud. How do we know you ain't a demon spy for DAPA? Danny, Evan snapped. The childish, impolite attitude continued. Such hostility for no reason. I can assure you I'm no fraud, I said. And I'm certainly no demon. I want Jasper dead just as much as you do. Danny couldn't help herself. She stood up, dropped her bowl on the log, and fumed like a dragon. Maybe she was the demonic spy. Then, unexpectedly, she pulled a knife out of its holster with her right hand. Danny, what the hell? Zeke snapped as he jumped up, dropping his bowl to the ground. If this girl thought she could come at me and this baby, she had another thing coming. Anger flooded through my veins. She took the blade and pressed hard on her left forearm, slicing from the outer edge to the inside. Blood dripped from her arm. This girl was crazy. I didn't see that coming. Quickly, my feeling of anger switched to concern for her sanity. Everyone's jaws dropped in shock, yet no one moved, watching us like a dramatic movie. She stepped around the fire and stopped in front of me, throwing her bloody arm in my face. Prove it. Evan stood up. Danny, seriously? Jesus, Danny, Alex cursed. She shook her head. I wouldn't heal her. Let her bleed. Alex continued to sit there, eating her stew, smiling as if this was another reality TV show starring Danny as the lead character. Shut up, Alex, Danny barked back. Danny threw her arm back in my face, repeating the same words as if I hadn't heard her the first time. Prove it, she repeated. Mike stood up with his hands in front, blocking Danny. I would back up if I were you. Don't upset her right now. Too late. Fear flooded my thoughts and my eyes filled with sparks of flames. I completely lost control of my emotions as if something inside me was trying to protect me. The baby. It sensed the threat. I stood up, staring in her eyes while the flames glowed brighter. My hands had sparks of orange coming out of my fingertips. She stepped back with a terrified look on her face. The ground shook like an earthquake. Everyone crouched low to the ground, bracing anything they could hold on to. The large pot shook so much that it fell over on its side and rolled off the wood on the fire, spilling stew. The tent shook. The logs we were sitting on vibrated. Sounds of roots ripped from a large tree behind me, roughly 20 feet back. "What are you doing?" Danny screamed. "It's not me. It's the baby," I shouted. Great. I had now blurted this secret I tried to keep between the selective few. Now the entire camp knew I was pregnant. "Stop her before someone gets hurt," Danny yelled. No one moved, staying low to the ground. The last thing I wanted was them to fear me. Suddenly, the tree fell over, cracking the entire way down until it crashed directly over the garden of food. I heard screams from the campers, but luckily no one was over there to get hurt. I shut my eyes to stop the glowing, making fists to stop the sparks from emerging out of my hands, telling myself to inhale, exhale, control the fear before it controls you. Baby, please, calm. I felt something touch my right hand. It was Mike. I recognized his icy hands without even opening my eyes. He placed the other hand on top of my extremely hot fist. I could hear him in my thoughts. "Baby, I'm here." It warmed my heart to hear those words coming from my husband, knowing this baby wasn't his and was half demon. We repeated in our thoughts, "Baby, stay calm. We are here." Then the ground stopped shaking and silence filled the air. Not even a bird chirping. It worked. This was the first time we connected with the baby. We could calm the baby together. Mike released his hold on my fists and I opened them. The sparks stopped, but as I looked up at everyone, all eyes were on me. "Sorry, it wasn't me," I claimed. Everyone's gaping mouths were too much, all standing there in fear as if they thought I could have hurt them. I left before anyone could say something to me. "Wait, I'm still bleeding here," Danny yelled. I completely ignored her. I faintly heard Mike talking. "I'll heal Danny. Zeke, can you bring her back?" "Sure." "Amber, wait," I heard Zeke yelling as he followed behind me, and I could faintly hear Evan lecturing Danny about her actions. Zeke caught up and walked beside me on the left. "You're pregnant?" he asked. I didn't respond to his question and continued to stomp away. He was the last person I wanted to talk to right now about the demon baby. My body flowed with so many emotions, but because of the overload, I wanted to hit something. I needed to get away from everyone and fast. It was too much. My hands began to spark orange again. I was going to lose control. "Amber, please, talk to me," he insisted. My emotions were too much. The sparks of orange were getting worse. I moved faster, clenching my hands into a fist. I wanted to run away, run so fast and so far, not to look back, escape from everything. But suddenly, Zeke grabbed my left arm from behind me. Without thinking, I turned around and my right fist swung at his face. He blocked it with his right arm. Then my left punched, and he blocked that as he stepped back. I thrust forward, trying a few more times, losing control of myself, about to cry. "Amber, stop. I don't want to hurt you," he shouted as he continued to block every punch. Then Zeke grabbed my arm, twisted me around to where he was now bear hugging me tight, my back pressed up against his chest. "Amber, stop," he repeated himself. I tried to wiggle free, but his powerful muscles had my small body in a firm grip. Finally, with nothing left to fight for, I cried in exasperation. It's aight, he repeated in a whisper. I felt his breath on my neck. You're good. My legs buckled, and we both fell to the ground as he still held me tight. The waterworks continued, my heart thudded, and my breathing was punctured and agonizing. The crying felt needed. With my body against his, somehow, he was sending me energy. I felt the positive sensation entering mine like Mike shared his energy. It flowed throughout every inch until my heart felt warm. Then the negative emotions left me one by one, anger, sadness, shame, and then finally fear. 30 seconds went by, and my wretch of mixed emotions was now serene. Silence from both of us. No one but Mike had ever been able to soothe me. I thought the baby could sense he was a safe person. Zeke released his tight grip and helped me up. Embarrassed by my actions, I kept my back to him, trying to gather my thoughts and wiping my tears. When I finally found my voice, I apologized. "I'm sorry I lost control." I continued facing away, too ashamed to turn around, arms hugging my body. "No worries," he said. "I'm here to help you." His comforting words reminded me of my husband. "I screwed things up," I said as I finally gained the courage to face him, still guarded with my arms crossed. "It's just so frustrating. Everything keeps going wrong. I almost got eaten by an alligator. Jasper made a demon baby inside me. And if Danny doesn't trust me, I'm sure others are feeling the same. You saw their faces. They feared me in a place of fearlessness. No, they don't fear you, he paused. It's just you're strong, with unique abilities they aren't used to. I get that, I declared. But even in a place where others are like me, I'm still different. I'm never going to fit in anywhere. Hey, Zeke stepped closer. You may have powers that make you different, but that's what makes you special. I took a deep breath in, inhaled the refreshing air, and let out a sigh. Just give them time. I'll talk to Danny. I nodded, but still kept my arms crossed around my chest, trying to keep them contained from another outburst. I sometimes feel like there's more to me, a reason I'm different from the other indigos. I uncrossed my arms and rubbed my necklace. Something is missing. I could tell he was thinking hard. Well, if you want, I could probably help you with that. Really? How? I asked. Have you ever meditated before? Like sitting with my legs crossed and humming? He shook his head. Not exactly. I'm talking about tapping into our soul from a different dimension. Our souls? I questioned. I believe that some star children have souls from somewhere else. Maybe other planets, and that's why we have special abilities, he said. Like aliens? I don't know if I would call it that, he said. But between my research and meditating, that's what I'm trying to figure out. He had me thinking. But I thought our gifts were given to us by the higher power, our God. And I don't doubt that. I just think our souls are the answers to who we are. If we can tap into them, it may explain everything. I was intrigued by his beliefs. If you're interested, we can try together. He looked at me with a particular expression in his eyes. That would be nice, I smiled. Have you ever reached your soul? Not yet, he replied, but I've been pretty close. I stared into his different color eyes. Thank you for everything. You've been a good friend. I'm trying to make up for being an asshole to you. I chuckled. Well, so far you saved my life, stopped me from hurting you, and offered to help me find my soul. You officially moved off my shit list. Zeke laughed. You couldn't have hurt me. No one beats me in a sparring match. Confident much? I asked. He puffed up his chest. Well, I do work hard on this muscular body. He made me smile, almost forgetting I'd had an outburst earlier. So, what's up with Danny? I asked. Danny's a little protective over me. She's had a crush on me ever since Zoe left. I just don't feel the same for her. Like I said, I'll take care of her. Come on, let's head back. Everyone's going to be mad at me, I sighed. It is going to be all right, Zeke insisted. Remember, you said this is a camp fearless, so let's face our fears. We'll go back together. I hoped he was right. During our walk back, I had to ask him, how did you do it? Do what? You know, I hesitated. Earlier, you calmed me down, sending me your energy. No one has ever been able to do that before. Well, no one other than Mike. Zeke stopped to think and shrugged his shoulders. He tilted his head. Honestly, I'm not sure. I just did what felt natural. Once we got back, they had the pot of stew cleaned up and a few were working on the tree that had fallen into the garden. Mike and Evan were talking by the fire. Luckily, Danny was nowhere in sight. Zeke said one last thing before going to find Danny. You got this. Thanks. Mike hustled over to me. Where did you go? He asked. I was about to come find you. I was worried. I had an emotional outbreak. I couldn't control it. But Zeke was able to calm me down. Zeke? Calmed you down? He asked with a sense of jealousy. Mike's eyebrows tilted inward with confusion. Unsure if this was a good idea, but I needed to give him something. I let him in, showed him the vision of Zeke hugging me to get my emotions to relax. Mike knew he was the only one who could help me with my emotions. I could sense he was confused and upset with himself. Don't worry, our relationship is strictly platonic, I assured him, still shielding him from seeing our times of connections. Now wasn't the time for that. It's not that, he said. First, the warehouse, an alligator attack, and an emotional breakdown. You were my wife. I should have been there to protect you. I needed to be better at this. I should have followed. I stopped him from beating himself up about it. It's fine, really, I assured him. You're not always going to be able to protect me, and from now on, I'm not going to need protection because I'm going to make better choices. Mike stared into my eyes. Evan walked over. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. No, we're good, I lied to Evan. I wanted to apologize for what happened. I held my belly. No worries, Amber, Evan said. We know it was the baby. It's not your fault. And quite frankly, Danny's filters seem to fail her from time to time, so I'm siding with the baby on this one. He looked down at my belly. Maybe she's not an evil demon. I mean, she is half of you. Evan had a point. Maybe it wasn't a bad thing to have extra protection. Then I realized what he said. He thought it was a girl. She? I questioned. Evan smirked at me. I have a feeling it's a mini Amber inside. Well, she definitely has my temper, I laughed. Evan read his watch. Let's head over to Central Hub to get our meeting started with the Flames Committee. I was looking forward to this meeting. Anything to keep my mind off what just happened. Ready to get this day over with.